I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending February 28th. We had yearling feeder cattle going right into the feedlot, selling unevenly steady. There was pressure early in the week, some of it obviously coming from last week's kind of bearish cattle on feed report for those big heavy feeders. But then by Wednesday and middle of the day Wednesday, when they started trading fed cattle at all-time new record high prices, then all that pressure was pretty much extinguished and we had some support late in the week. So, and there was some markets that was a little bit higher early in the week and vice versa, but just kind of unevenly steady, not a lot of change in the prices on those big cattle, and most of the pressure we did see was on those weights over 850 pounds. But we did see all-time record high fat cattle again on Wednesday. Packers kind of showed that they were short bought there as coming out earlier in the week there or at midweek, and given live prices $4 to $6 higher, from $150 to $152 up in the northern plains. Dress prices in Nebraska were $7 to $10 higher at mostly $240. But awful good market there, and a lot of strength showed. And pretty much we've all forgotten about any bearishness we had on the cattle on feed last week. Your most active trading this week, like we figured, was on those 500 to 750 pound hard stocker cattle, the old crop stockers, and in the southeast, those hard little lightweight calves that they sell down there. And trading was very active on those kinds. Prices were firm to $5 higher. But we're seeing increased offerings of new crop, softer type calves coming into the Midwest and then the Plain States. Trading, they're selling pretty good, of course, but trading not quite as active. You're not seeing the demand on those as you are on those older hard stocker cattle. But mostly steady on the new crop calves that are showing up, and those are becoming a larger percentage of the offering every week. Now, receipts, nationwide auction receipts, were sharply higher than the same week a year ago, as we had that big snowstorm that come across there in the southern plains, up to 20 inches of snow this week a year ago. But receipts were lighter than we were last week, about 10%, and we expect them to just become progressively lighter as we move on. Most of your northern plains auctions, Nebraska and the Dakotas and up in there, have went to an every other week schedule, and that's just a measure. They want to have a good run of cattle for their buyers to show up, and if they can't get the kind of run that they want, they'll just bunch them up and have them every other week. And that just goes to show you there's fewer and fewer available feeder and stocker cattle every week as we go on from here. But we've got another storm coming in this weekend and going to hit the bulk of the major production areas. And I'm not sure what the polar vortex is, but ever since they started talking about it, it's been miserable here in northwest Missouri. And I think it's been a pretty tough winter everywhere, and a lot tougher than normal down in the southeast. They're ready for it to be over too. But out west in California, they got a little rain there a couple of weeks ago, but big rains with this storm coming across. And it's going to help a lot, but it just seems like it's feast or famine for them. There's some places out there are going to get a year's worth of rain in 2 or 3 days, and they're not going to get to take much advantage of that, although it will fill up some ponds and streams and maybe allow for some irrigation if they decide to loosen that up. But this week we saw the backgrounder orders come in, and those really specific orders. You got guys that just graze cattle one time a year. They're coming to town or calling their order buyer, and they want their specific cattle. They want those hard cattle that have been long time weaned, all their shots and everything, and they want them thin, and they want them empty, and they want them to show just a tick of age more so than what size they've got, but they want those stretchy cattle too. And those orders are very specific, and trying to follow that as a market reporter is really tough. And they may just be buying steers weighing from 5 to 550 pounds, despite condition. And so you might see a huge jump just going from 150 pound increment to the next, because those guys get so specific on those orders as they want those cattle to grow together and make yearlings. But and a lot of them do want them black or dark hided, but basically if you can get solid bodied cattle, and it doesn't really matter what their heads look like, those solid bodied cattle, not colored up too much, those cattle you can turn them out on grass, and they're going to sell at the top of the yearling market. And those yearling buyers in the late summer there are not real particular. But crazy prices again this week. Ogallala, Nebraska sold 49 head of little steers, weighed 426. Little fancy light hard things weighed 426 pounds at 301 and a quarter. 301 and a quarter. Hadn't been that long ago that over $2 a pound sounded really odd. Had a potload of steers weighed 707. Fancy also bring 198. Boneless beef, your hamburger meat out of your cows and bulls, showed all-time record highs. So now in 2014, we've seen all-time record highs on all classes of cattle, beef cattle, and all classes of beef products, the major ones. So boneless beef products, the 90% lean, been over $250 and working towards $251. That's all-time record high, making these cows and bulls all-time record highs. So pretty much everything's at a record. Regional weighted averages this week in the north central states, a 6-weight steer cost you $194.29 compared to $189.89 last week and $152.75 a year ago. In the south central states, a 5-weight steer cost you $205.02 compared to a $202.12 last week and $162.07 a year ago. Down in the southeast, a 400 to 500 pound steer cost you $209.09 compared to $208.11 last week and $162.68 a year ago. That wraps up our feeder and stocker cattle market summary for this week. Check out our website for more market information at marketnews.usda.gov. From the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.